Hi everyone, it's Leilani. Welcome back to my channel. So today it is time to fill out all of the February pages in my reading journal. So I'm really excited to be back into the reading journal, to actually feel that excitement, to work in it each month. Like, you can tell that I'm not really putting it off. I'm here ready to document all the things that I read last month. And that feels really good because for a while, I kind of dreaded this project. I wasn't enjoying the pages that I was working on last year in 2023. And it really wasn't a project that I was gravitating towards. And so I kept putting it off, and I would have a lot of, catch up to do each time I went back to my reading journal. So I know that we're only a couple months in, but it does feel good to be more on the ball and to have that want to get into my reading journal and fill it out. So as I was chatting, we already finished the first spread, my bookish year. We popped down the 7 books that I read in the month of February. So super easy. I just always print off my book covers really small, and I pop those into place on my first spread. For my second spread, probably my favorite one that we worked on last month is my favorites page. I really enjoyed this one. I love at the end of the year to see every book that was the one that I picked out to be my favorite for each month. I just enjoy that in general. And I really like the way that this spread ended up turning out with all the different colors and the different shapes of the background of the book. So it's just really fun. For this month, I put down the book Freaks, Gleeks, and Dawson's Creek, which was such a fun book that I will talk more about here very soon, but popped that in place and then did a little decorating, and we're done with that one. Then I'm moving on to my Goodreads spread, where I'm going to fill out in the color yellow. I just picked a different color from last month, and I'm going to go ahead and color in 7 of these boxes, since I did finish 7 books over the month. Now, I got a comment during my last video for this reading journal that said to be careful for my magic pens, as I must have called them, because if they get wet, they will smear, or they will disappear. And yes, I have noticed that. I was going to mention that if I write on top of the pen, I'm using an erasable pen that I got from Target. If I color on top of it, like I just did with the Goodreads challenge page, it does smear very badly. So what I ended up doing was I just went ahead and erased all of the numbers, because I don't really need the numbers there. They do go to number 11. You can see that I went back and I completed the rest of that Goodreads spread, but I'm just going to erase each of those numbers each time. Hopefully that makes sense, but I think that will just be overall better. Then also I did change up my bought book page, and I just I didn't like the way that I did it in the last spread. If you remember, I used some of my little highlighters to make lines, and I thought, I don't like that, because I would rather write them all down and then be able to highlight them off as I read the books that I buy for the year. So I just took a piece of paper out of the back of this particular Archer and Olive notebook, and I pasted it. I adhered it on top of the spread that I worked on last time that I didn't like anymore, and then just wrote down the books that I bought. Then I went through and added on the Cozy Mystery Book Club book of the month. And then I didn't add anything in with the Cozy Bingo. So now we're going to this 2-page spread here that I left blank last month in January, because I knew I wanted to add my book shelfie, but I didn't have any more sticker paper, I think is what the problem was. So I couldn't print off my shelfie. So I left it blank so that I could come back and work on it this month. So I will link the printable that I'm using below, and a lot of other things will be linked as well. but we're going to go ahead and complete this bookshelfy page together. So what I did first off is I went ahead and I've stamped the word shelfie. But as I stamped that, I didn't like the way that that S turned out, and I didn't like that it just didn't feel like it was close enough to the spine of the book there. So I went ahead and I just took another piece of paper out of the back. This book has so many pages, so I don't mind taking some out. And I restamped that and then added it in place as you saw. And you can't even tell that I made that mistake, really. Like whenever you're flipping through the book, it's really hard to tell. So then you can see that I did bookshelfy. I really like the way that that looks. And then I've printed off my image here on sticker paper. The sticker paper is a different color paper than the background, but that kind of thing doesn't really bother me. I would much rather have it on sticker paper because it's so easy to put into place. Now, the only thing is that the image that I chose, this is the same one that I used in my previous reading journal as well, but I really like it. But the image that I chose, it only has 3 shelves worth of books, and I need a 4th shelf. So I printed off the image a couple more times, and then I cut out that smaller shelf, and then I'm just kind of trying to wiggle it into the room down there. So I had to cut a little bit of it off and make it work, but it does end up working. I get it into place. So then I can have 4 shelves, which I think look better because it finishes it off nicely, and I'll have plenty of books to fill out throughout the year. I probably won't even fill all of these books in, so that works out perfectly. I really like the way that that ends up looking. And now I'm just going to decorate the page and add a few other little odds and ends. So I do end up grabbing this one stamp set that I used in the last video. I do not remember where it's from right now off the top, but it's a cute little circle here. So there's all kinds of sentiments. So I'm going to add a couple of them inside of these yellow circles. And then we'll go ahead and color in all of the like random items on this printable. And then we'll fill in all the books for the last 2 months and get this page looking really good. So just like with last year's, the way that I colored in my books was by a 5-star rating. So of course, there's all kinds of ways that you could color in your books. You could color them. You could have each month be one color, and you could color in all of the books that you read for each month. So you could have like January is pink, February is yellow, March is purple. And then that way you would be able to see how many books you read each month. You could do it as like audio or physical or Kindle or different ways like that. There's so many different things that you could do. For me, I love to do the 5-star rating because that's something that I'm always interested in seeing at the end of the year. How many books did I love versus how many did I not really like that much? So this is a nice visual to do that. So you can see that at this point, I've colored in all of the cute little items on the shelf, and now I'm creating my rating. So over here on the side, I just picked out 4 different colors that I hadn't used yet, and then I created my 5-star rating. So 5 is purple, 4 is kind of the light green, this color that I'm using here. Then 3 is pink, 2 is a light blue, and 1 is like a light orange. So I'm going to start to color in all of the spines of my books. I will kind of pass over some of that because it takes me a little bit, because we are going to be filling out all of the books for January and February. But I always just have a notebook with some little notes written down, things that I know that I'm going to need to reference. So I always have all of my books written down that I read for the month. I have each page full, page count. I also have whatever rating I gave the book. I have my total number of pages. I have just different little, like a cheat sheet over to the side so that I can go back and reference it as I'm working on things. So that's what I'm looking at here. And then I did color in the actual bookshelf. I don't think that I've done that before, and it obviously looks really good all colored in. So at this point, I have all of my books color-coded per the rating that I gave it. And then I'm just going in and writing at least some of the title, as much as I could fit in there. So I'm going to do that for both January and February. We'll get all of those into place, and then we'll move on to the full February spread, which is my favorite part of my reading journal. I'm really enjoying that monthly spread. I think that it's really fun. But I do really like the way that this turned out. I am going to erase over here to the side. I didn't really like the way that this looked, but I do, of course, like my ratings. So instead, I just just change it up a little bit. I just add the number inside of the color, and that works out perfectly. And then I'm going to move on to my monthly spread. So that's one thing that I'm really, really liking about my reading journal is the way that I am documenting the months. I do have fun putting in all of the other, I don't know what you call those, like trackers, but I don't do a lot of tracking throughout my month for reading. I mean, I know there's so many different things that I see people put in their reading journals, and I absolutely love them, and I think that it would be really fun. But I do a lot of projects throughout the month, and I don't spend a lot of time tracking like all kinds of different things with my reading journal. But one thing that I just super love being able to go back and look at is the breakdown of the month. I think that that's really fun to see all of the different books that I read throughout the month. So this is definitely my favorite part. So again, I'm just adding my month to the top. So February, this month I chose pink as my color. So I'm using one of my Catherine Pooler ink pads to do the stamping. And then I'm using two different mild liners. So I'm going to use a light pink and a dark pink, depending on which thing I'm coloring in. So just like in January and on a lot of my other spreads, I am doing a little outline here, which I think is really fun. I really have enjoyed that. And I think that it really adds a lot to the spread. It's something so simple, but to me, it really makes a big impact. Then I'm using my same pen and I'm going to be outlining it, which adding that black outline, I think helps so much. So if you have kind of a wonky outline, once you add the black, I just think it makes it pop and it looks so good. Then I'm going to use my wooden stamps just like I did last month. And I'm going to spell out stats and total, and we're going to put those into place. Then we will do our monthly favorite and talk about the book. So while I just start to do some of these things that you've seen last month and just some of the kind of assembly line things, as I call them, just those same things that I'm working on each month here in my book, I'll tell you about a few of the books that I did read that I enjoyed. So for my favorite book of this month, as I mentioned before, I read the book Freaks, Gleeks, and Dawson's Creek, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was so fun. Now, I'm a pop culture girly. I love reading about pop culture. I always know about it. I follow, Perez Hilton. I listen to his podcast all the time, and I love hearing about pop culture, but I especially love nostalgic pop culture, of course. I love anything from those times where I was growing up that just means a lot to me, and I love hearing more about it. So this book in particular was so good. It was about 7 teen shows that paved the way for different things throughout history. So the 7 shows that it talked about were The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, My So-Called Life, Freaks and Geeks, Glee, also Dawson's Creek, of course, Friday Night Lights, and the last one was The OC. So there were a lot of great shows in there. Now, I had not personally seen Friday Night Lights before, but all of the other ones I was definitely familiar with. I'd either watched that and loved it, or I've definitely seen the show quite a bit and knew a lot about it. So it was really fun to just hear about all the behind the scenes and the different ways that the shows were developed and special things about them and what they did to change television. And I just really, really enjoyed this book so much. I thought it was so well written. It was fun and it was funny and touching at times. And I just thought that it was a great concept. And honestly, I wanted more. I was sad when the 7 shows were done. So it was just a really fun book for me to read. So that is the book that I chose as my monthly fave. It was definitely my standout favorite book of the month with the 5-star rating. So here at the bottom of this left side of the spread, probably my favorite part of the month is to spell out monthly favorite and then to get to showcase that one book. So I absolutely love when people do like a breakdown of each book that they read throughout the month. I think that that's so fun that they write like a blurb about it. But for me, I cannot remember like details about all of these books by the time I'm working on my reading journal. And I really don't want to have to make this any harder for myself by like taking notes throughout the month and things like that. But for me to just go through and talk about the one book that's my very favorite, now that's pretty easy for me to do. So this has been one of my favorite parts here, to draw a fun little like outline. Here I did a little zigzag, and then I pop on the either book or the audio, like the headphones, to say whichever way that I read it. So I did read this one physically, and then I'll put a few stats about the book underneath it. I pop on the photo, and then I will stamp the title of the book, which this one was a really long one to stamp, but I went ahead and stamped the entire title. And then I'll just write a small little paragraph about the book and what I thought about it. So just having to do that about one book per month is just easier for me personally than having to go through all of the books that I read. So as I finish this up and get this part complete, I'll tell you about a few of the other books that I read throughout the month. So I don't have them all here in front of me, but I think that I can remember most of them. So another one that I read was The Vegas Diaries by Holly Madison. So I love Holly. She's one of my favorite people from the Girls Next Door. I've been a big fan of the Girls Next Door since it came on in the early 2000s. Definitely was a big thing for me back then. I absolutely fell in love with both Holly and Bridget. So I do their Patreon now. It is so much fun. And I've loved Holly's book, the first book that she wrote called Down the Rabbit Hole. I love, and I've actually read it a couple of times and listened to it on audio because she reads the books. So I had never read the second one, The Vegas Diaries. Now, I do personally feel like it was a little unnecessary. It wasn't as good to me as Down the Rabbit Hole, but it was still fun to read. I love Holly, so I enjoyed listening to it. Again, it has those pop culture elements of her going on to be in Holly's World, which was the spinoff show for her after The Girls Next Door. There was a bit about Dancing with the Stars and different things like that. So I did read that one. Definitely worth the read, but not my favorite. Also, Death in the Dark Woods was the book club pick for my Cozy Mystery Book Club over on Patreon this month, which was also really fun. We had actually read the first one in this series called Death in Door County last year. So this is the second one, and it's a monster hunter mystery. So that was really fun. It's like a different approach to a cozy mystery, which is kind of nice to have a different twist on it. So the first book was all about the Loch Ness Monster. This last one was all about Bigfoot. So that was really a fun read. Gave it 4 stars. Another one was called One in a Millennial. Now this I was pretty excited to read about. Again, nostalgia, me, it goes hand in hand. I was excited about it. Although unfortunately I only ended up giving it 3 stars. It had parts that I really enjoyed and parts that I really just was kind of bored by or kind of rolled my eyes at. So this particular person who wrote the book definitely is from the same time frame as me. I think we were born within like a year of each other or something, but we definitely had different approaches on different things. Of course, we're 2 different people, but I did enjoy the book as a whole. I think I gave it 3 stars. Like, it was a fun story. It just incorporated lots and lots of nostalgia into like life lessons and just kind of a memoir type thing. So it was definitely worth listening to. Also, I finished the thriller First Lie Wins. Now, I'd been seeing this book cover everywhere, and it's my own fault. I didn't read at all what this book was about. I ended up giving it like 3 stars. I don't think that it was a bad book in any way, but if I would have read the synopsis, I don't know that I would have picked it up. Like, I just don't think it was really the type of thriller that I'm that interested in. So it was fine. It was a quick listen and all of that. But I think I would have probably chosen a different book. I just kept seeing it everywhere, and I thought, oh, whatever. It's a thriller. I'll listen to it. And it was okay. Then the last two at the bottom are two different graphic novels or mangas that I really love. So Blood on the Tracks, I'm on number 15. I think I gave it 4 stars. I just really like the story. It's a thriller manga and it's just interesting. And I got that book over the month. That was one of the books that I picked up that I bought. So I was happy to get to read it. And then also Heartstopper number 5. I also gave that one 4 stars. Heartstopper is such a heartwarming and beautiful story of Nick and Charlie and their relationship. Although this one I did still enjoy. It's about them kind of trying to move to the next stage in their relationship, but also a lot of it was about their potential long distance relationship, moving on to college, things like that. I wasn't as interested in that part of the book, but still, I really enjoyed that graphic novel, and I will for sure continue reading it on to, I think the 6th one is going to be the last one. So it was still fun to pick up and read. So I gave it 4 stars. So I feel like I had a good reading month. I really enjoyed everything. Everything got a 3-star, 4, or even a 5. So that's always really good. So here I've added on all my little stats about the other 6 books that I read. I did a little bit of an outline on all of them. And then I did add in the stamp if I listened to it audio or if I read it physically. Then I remembered that I did not put my star ratings down yet. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to stamp those here for the last little thing. I do mess up on one of them, but it's not really enough to matter. But here it looks like it was only a 2.5 star when really it was a 3. So I'm going to try to restamp that one in a millennial, and it kind of messes up, but it's okay. I can tell it's a 3 star. So I'm going to stamp all of them, and then I believe we will be all done with this spread. So really happy with how it turned out. I had a lot of fun, and I was honestly looking forward to working in my reading journal, which is what all of these projects are all about. So I'm happy that it's worked out, and I'm enjoying the way that I'm documenting this year. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this process video. If you did, please give me a like, and please also consider subscribing. And of course, I will be back at you with even more reading journal content as the year continues. So I hope that you guys are having an absolutely wonderful, wonderful day. And of course, I'll be back at you super soon. So I'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.